Plantifyers, Jess here, and welcome back to the garden. So it is October now, which is technically spring, but in our climate it's more accurate to say it's the dry. The rains kind of stopped around June, and since then there's been very little rainfall, which means we've had to actually water the garden. And that means it's harder to keep everything alive because it's used to quite substantial amounts of water. But there's only so much you can provide, especially when you are like us, living on tank water. And not only that, we actually have been away overseas from early September till kind of the middle of October. We visited Singapore, which I'm going to do a video on, the amazing Gardens by the Bay soon, which this is a little excerpt from, and they were really stunning, so I'm really looking forward to sharing them with you. And we also visited Croatia, Dubrovnik specifically, walking around the walls of the city, and that was a really stunning and amazing historical experience to visit such an old place. We also went to Arundel Castle Gardens, which I've already published a video on. If you want to check that out, you can watch that, which are some beautiful English gardens in early autumn. And I also did a solo walking tour on the Isle of Wight, which I might publish a video on over on my main channel, Jess Van Den, if you're interested in checking that out. Suffice it to say, we were away, and as much as our house sitter tried, it was hard for her to keep everything alive. Not only that, a lot of things went to seed while we were away. So here is my favourite snow peas, mammoth snow peas, which you can see have a couple of pods left, although they're pretty small, sad pods at this point, the last few kind of that the plant produced. And the nasturtiums, as always, are just hanging in there. And surprisingly, these tomatoes, the cherry tomatoes, have been doing okay. I think most of these are actually volunteers. They kind of started coming up just before we left, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to leave them, because as we all know, volunteer plants are usually the strongest because they have just grown naturally where they occurred. So I decided to leave them and let them grow. The broad beans sadly got infested by aphids while we were away. She tried to combat that, but unfortunately was not overly successful. So we didn't end up getting any broad beans out of this crop. I'm still experimenting with broad beans because honestly, this is not really the right climate for them. I think I need to start them earlier next year and try again. And these are some sugar snap peas that again have gone to seed and died back. You can see a lot of things going to seed, a lot of empty spaces because I didn't want to start things before we left. But there's a few little cornflowers, and there was still plenty of little flowers from things that had gone to seed, and asparagus had finally started to come up as well. But you can see how many weeds there are also in this bed looking around. So there was a big job to weed everything once we got home, and in my next video I'm actually going to show you how we have kind of weeded, saved seed and re-prepped these garden beds. But today I'm just showing you a tour of what is currently growing, or what was growing when we got back, and what it looked like. So you can see these radish seeds here, lots and lots of stuff to collect. This Okinawan spinach is looking really sad. Usually these leaves are enormous, but with the lack of water, there's no purple in them and they're really small. So we would just cut all them back. And the onions are hanging in there, starting to bulb out a little bit. I'm hoping they'll get a bit bigger and more hearty now that they are getting watered more and they're getting more sun as well at this time of year than they were earlier in the year. So I'm holding out hope that they'll come good. There's a broccoli that's gone to seed as well. We planted a lot of brassicas and greens like a few months before we left. And you can see that while some of them survived, some of them did get a bit chomped by the cabbage moth. So some of them we managed to rescue, some of them we didn't. These are volunteer warrigal greens growing in the same places they grew last year. They just popped back up. And this is a whole bunch of mustard greens. Now these plants were really, really good. They provided us with months of food, so I'm definitely saving a bunch of this seed, and that will be really excellent to grow again. The bower over the bird bath, this is a native called Bower of Beauty, and it's flowering for the first time. I planted it last year, or very early this year, and it's such a beautiful plant. I'm so pleased that it's happy here, and it's creating this really nice bower for the birds. They love to come and kind of dive through and sit on the Rio mesh that makes up the archway, and it gives them a bit of shade as it's getting hotter as well. But it's gone a bit crazy, so I'm having to weave in all of these ends. The blueberries are fruiting, and some of them are doing okay. So we might get a few fruits off these. But some of them didn't get enough water, and you can see a bunch of the fruit is stunted and is basically not going to come good. So that's a bit of a shame, but it's just the way it goes, unfortunately, when you get into the dry season and it's hard to keep the water up to things. The pond is going really well. You can see the water level's a bit low here. I've had to keep that topped up. And the plants in there are growing nicely, which I'm really happy. And we have a frog. I was really excited when we got home to find a frog was living in our pond. This is the flower garden, the chaos flower garden. The nasturtiums that were blooming beautifully before we left are all dead now. Although I'm going to collect the seeds so I can regrow from them. Some of the rest of it is okay, but again, there's a lot of weeds in there that need to be pulled out, and a lot of stuff that's still growing and hasn't flowered yet. And you can see a bunch of those other kind of Asian greens in the background too. I did miss a few things that were flowering in the chaos flower garden. My house sitter sent me some photos of some lovely dahlias, but I didn't unfortunately miss the weeds, so lots of little baby weeds. And that's the problem with doing something like a chaos garden, especially with seeds you've not used before. I had to let things get big enough to know if they were weeds or not. This is one of our tropical cherry trees, obviously been munched on, and we weren't sure what had come along and munched on all of these leaves. Hopefully it'll come back. But we discovered the culprit about a week after we got home, at least we think the culprit. This little wallaby was outside our house, and it looks just the right size to be chewing on those leaves of the cherry tree. And here we've got a whole bunch of winter and Asian greens and a few other things in the new garden. I really need to name this garden. If you have any suggestions, let me know, because I keep calling it like the new garden. But there's going to be more new gardens, so I have to come up with a name for this section of the garden. I haven't come up with a good one yet. The green manure bed, you can see I missed a few things there, cutting them back. Borage, looking sad. A lot of things just kind of either went to seed or were looking kind of sad when we got home because of that lack of water. But all of these seeds are a great thing because I can reuse them obviously next season. And we're also toying with the idea of reusing them for microgreens and just growing them over the summer inside. A couple of kohlrabi that are actually growing nicely, surprisingly. I didn't realize they were quite so hearty. And some cabbage as well, which I think unfortunately might have got a little bit chomped. It's kind of hard to tell, but we will see what we can get. Bunch of lettuces went to seed as well, bolted to seed in the hot weather. There was a bit of a heat wave the week before we got home as well, so that didn't help matters. But the bees are enjoying all of the flowers and the leftovers of the lavender, which I mostly missed, sadly, flowering. But it's looking healthy, this lavender, so hopefully next year we'll get a bumper crop from that. Not having a lot of luck with the big tomatoes. These are some Roma tomatoes and some other large type of tomato. I think the lack of water and probably just a lack of nutrients in those areas is kind of a bad combination. And you can see the yellowing here. because of a lack of water and nutrient flow through the plant. And because we are on tank water and we are in the dry, I decided to kind of pretty much abandon this vine garden for now. You can see the Madagascar beans just all got eaten, although it is flowering again, because it's quite a big perennial, this one, so it's got deep roots and is surviving in the dry. But the rest of this garden I'm kind of just sacrificing for now until the rains come, because I just can't justify spending the water it would take to keep this garden going. I'd rather focus on the garden close to the house, the bamboo garden, the new garden, because that's where we can get more productive stuff happening and started before the dry is over. You can see how dry the lawn is getting with just that lack of rain. And you know, these ginger, this is just some sort of ornamental ginger that the previous owners planted that's kind of spread around. The pineapples are actually fruiting. I was so excited when I got home and saw this. These two that are in pots, but also we have some down on the driveway, which I'll show you in a minute. So I'm like babying those now and trying to keep them happy and alive to get those pineapples. This is one of our tropical apple trees, which seems to be happy enough. And a few of the other plants around there. There's an everlasting daisy, which has come up nicely. There's a little friend visiting it. I had a bunch of these last year, but I didn't quite plant enough this year. And these little bits by the walkway are kind of still hanging on. I've got some baby lavender there, some rosemary here, a few other bits and pieces. This garden bed, or these garden beds by the front, they're looking pretty sad at the moment, and there's not a lot going on because I'm trying to make them perennial permaculture beds, and I don't have the plants I want to put in here. I actually want to put a whole bunch of globe artichokes in here. That's a big goal of mine. This is a volunteer tomato that's just grown under the stairs, as you do. So until I have those plants, I've kind of put some stuff in here, like those apples in the middle, and the native mint you might be able to see out of the corner of your eye there on the right. This is our other tropical apple. It's not as happy. I don't know why this one is so sad. It's a different variety than to the other one, but they're both on the same rootstock, so I don't know what's going on here. The garlic that I did not harvest before we left is properly died back, as it is in this garlic bed. I really need to get in here and pull this out. I'm just going to have to like dig through the whole bed and pop out any garlic that has grown in there. But you can see there's some that's grown. It hasn't grown particularly well. I'm not sure if this is a lack of nutrient issue or a lack of water issue. I mean, I watered it, I kept it watered up until we left, and maybe it just didn't get enough water to bulb out more, or it didn't have enough nutrients. I'm still a beginner when it comes to garlic, so if you have any tips, let me know. This is all the dead fall of leaves just from the dry. It was funny, we left England in autumn and there was all the beautiful autumn leaves falling, and I got home to all of the beautiful dry season leaves on the ground. And here are the other pineapples on the driveway garden that are actually fruiting. So I'm kind of giving these some extra nutrients and hoping that I get a decent pineapple off each of these, because these have been here for years. And we came home to one of our banana plants creating more bananas for us, so that was a nice surprise. This is planted in a spot where it gets water from our sort of septic system. We have the orchard has lines under it from our grey water system, and so the stuff that's growing in the orchard generally has water all year round, and that's why it's greener here. You can see the grass is quite a bit greener because it's getting that water from that grey water system. And the dragon fruit are finally getting big enough. The mulberry tree pretty much finished fruiting when we got home, but there were some fruit still on there, but the birds pretty much got these ones. And with all of the leaf fall, like, we usually leave it as much as we can to, you know, give nutrients back to the ground, but we decided to rake some of it up this year to create a pile, a leaf mold pile, and also to use as mulch, because it's free mulch, because we need to remulch the bamboo house and probably also the new garden as well. Gotta come up with a name for that. So you can see the piles here, and that's like bamboo leaves and other sorts of leaves. It's a whole mixture of different leaves from various trees. And even with like raking it up and making big piles. There is still tons of it everywhere, so there's no shortage of leaf fall still on the ground for the animals and insects, and to give nutrients back to the ground as well. So that is pretty much an update of where the garden is at the moment when we got home. Next week I'm going to show you, or soon I'm going to show you an update of what we're doing, so how we kind of saved all the seed. I'm going to show you composting and mulching and what we're planting and what I've just planted as well, the things that I've gotten started at the moment. So that is coming very soon. Thanks for hanging out with me in the garden, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.